The Last Exit on Route 66. An 8 to 10 minute cinematic American horror narration. There are roads in America that seem endless. Highways that stretch for hundreds of miles through empty deserts, forgotten towns, and places where no GPS can truly guide you. Locals say that if you're driving alone after midnight and you see a sign for Ravens Creek, you should keep driving. No matter how low your gas tank is, no matter how tired you are. Because once you take that exit, some people never find their way back. It was 1:17 in the morning. A violent storm rolled across the Arizona desert as Ethan Carter gripped the steering wheel of his black SUV. Rain slammed against the windshield while thunder echoed across the empty landscape. He hadn't seen another car for nearly an hour. His GPS had gone silent. Searching for signal. Those words had been glowing on the screen for almost 40 minutes. His fuel gauge dropped lower, 20 miles left, then 15, then 10. Ethan sighed, "Great, just perfect." As another flash of lightning lit the highway, something appeared ahead. A faded road sign. Its rusty metal looked decades old. Last exit heard, but there wasn't a single person anywhere. Until he saw her. A little girl, no older than 8. She stood beside the abandoned gas station wearing a faded white dress. Her long black hair covered half her face. She wasn't crying. She wasn't moving. She was simply waiting. Ethan slowed the SUV. He rolled down the window. "Hey, kid. Are you lost?" No answer. She slowly raised one pale hand and pointed across the street toward an old roadside motel. Then she lowered her arm without another movement. The motel's neon sign buzzed weakly. Vacancy. Half the letters no longer worked. The building looked abandoned. Still, the lights inside the office were on. Ethan stepped inside. The lobby smelled like dust and old wood. Behind the counter sat an elderly man wearing a gray suit that looked 50 years out of date. Without looking up, he slid a rusty key across the counter. "Room 13. Ethan blinked. "I didn't even ask for a room." "You don't have to." The old man finally looked into Ethan's eyes. His expression never changed. "And whatever you hear," Clark looked back down at an ancient guest register, as though the conversation had ended. Room 13 was small, a single bed, a cracked mirror, peeling wallpaper, an old clock hanging crooked on the wall. Outside, the town remained completely silent. Ethan locked the door. He laughed to himself. Old guy watches too many horror movies. He lay down. Eventually, sleep came. A loud knock woke him. His eyes opened. The room was completely dark. The clock glowed faintly. 3 a.m. Another knock. Slow, deliberate knock. Knock. Then a voice. Ethan. His heart froze. He knew that voice. It was impossible. It sounded exactly like his mother. She had died in a hospital 5 years earlier. "Ethan, please, open the door." His breathing became shallow. Tears filled his eyes. For one impossible second, he wanted to believe. He stood, walked toward the door. His hand touched the lock. Then, he remembered the old clerk's warning. "Don't open the door." Instead, he leaned forward and looked through the peephole. Nothing. Only darkness. He sighed in relief. Then, slowly, a pale forehead rose into view, then empty eye sockets, then a smile, far too wide to belong to anything human. The creature whispered. You looked. The lights exploded. Glass shattered. The room plunged into darkness. Something laughed, right outside the door. Ethan backed away. The doorknob began turning, slowly. Once, twice, again. The wood creaked. The thing outside scratched the door with long fingernails. Then, silence. Hours seemed to pass. He never moved. He never slept. He simply waited. For daylight. At sunrise, birds finally began singing. The nightmare seemed over. Ethan threw the door open. The hallway was empty. The motel office was deserted. The old clerk was gone. Even the rusty key had vanished. He sprinted to his SUV. The engine started immediately. He never looked back. 3 hours later, he reached a small roadside diner along the interstate. The smell of fresh coffee almost made him cry with relief. A waitress noticed his exhausted face. Long night? You could say that. He laughed nervously. Then he asked, "Have you ever heard of a town called Ravens Creek?" The smile disappeared from her face. She stopped pouring coffee. "What did you say?" "Ravens Creek." She stared at him, then quietly walked into the back room. A minute later, she returned carrying an old newspaper. Its pages were yellow with age. The headline read, "Entire town destroyed by fire, October 1978. Hundreds were killed. No survivors." She turned the page. A large black and white photograph showed the victims gathered outside the town church. Standing in the front row was the little girl in the white dress, exactly as Ethan had seen her. Cold fear spread through his body. Then he noticed something else. Standing beside her, smiling directly at the camera, was him. Not someone who looked similar. Him, wearing modern clothes. The same jacket. The same face. But one thing was different. His smile stretched impossibly wide and had turned cold. Outside the window, a rusty road sign stood where the highway should have been. It read, "Welcome back to Ravens Creek." And from somewhere behind him, 3 slow knocks echoed through the silent diner. Knock, knock, knock. Then a familiar voice whispered, "You looked." Fade to black. This script is original fiction, making it suitable for a YouTube horror storytelling channel. If you'd like, I can also turn it into a professional Mr.